Before we get into today's episode, I want to say this. There is a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from being self-aware enough to see your pattern, but not rewired enough to stop repeating it yet. Like, you know what you're doing. You can explain it. You can name it. You can journal about it. You can tell your friend, like, I know, I'm doing the thing again. I keep starting and then stopping, starting and stopping, but then you still do it again. That's your subconscious wiring. Instead of focusing on changing the behavior and the habits and the routines, we have to change the wiring that's causing the patterns, that's causing the behavior. That's the part we're getting into on Tuesday. I'm hosting a free live masterclass because awareness is powerful, but awareness on its own does not automatically create follow through. You have to know how to work with the actual moment that your old identity takes over and rewire your brain. Okay. This is like my specialty. This is what I do. And I make it really doable and simple in the middle of like your busy, chaotic, crazy life. Okay. The class that I'm hosting is called Stop Starting Over, 5 Steps to Becoming the Woman Who Follows Through. It is happening live on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. Grab the link in the show notes or go to alliecasaza.com/stopstartingover, all squished together, no dashes or anything. Okay. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be transformative. Okay, let's get into this episode. If you have ever said, okay, this time I am serious about changing this part of my life, I'm doing this for real, made the whole plan, started fresh, and then somehow found yourself back in the exact same pattern 2 weeks later, this episode is going to feel personal because I want to talk about the restart loop. We're going to talk about the I'll start Monday loop, the after this trip loop, the once the kids are back in school loop, the after my period loop, the after I get through this week loop, the once I get the house all clean and organized and buy the right groceries and get my life together first loop. And I want to talk about why you can really mean it this time and still end up falling off track and starting over again and again and again. That shitty start-stop cycle. Okay, because that is the part that really starts to mess with your head over time. It's not like you're lying when you say you want to change. You do want to change. You do want the routine. You do want to work out. You do want to stop scrolling so much at night. You do want to wake up feeling ready, feeling like a person, feeling energized. You do want to eat in a way that supports your body. You do want to stop snapping at your kids. You do want to be more consistent in your business. You want to follow through on the thing you said you were going to do. You're not making that up. The desire is there, it's strong, and it's real. But wanting it and being wired to hold it and follow through on it are not the same thing. And that is where so many women get stuck. Every time they start over, they think, okay, this time I just have to try harder. I need more discipline, more structure, more of a plan, more motivation. I need to figure out how to stay motivated. I need more pressure, more tracking, more accountability, more consequences, more shame, basically, just kind of dressed up in a slightly better outfit, right? And then when that doesn't last, they make it mean something about themselves. You know, I'm lazy, I'm inconsistent, I can't trust myself, I always do this, I'm just bad at follow through, I know what to do, I just don't do it. And those thoughts, repeated each time this happens, wire it in as fact, as who you are to your subconscious mind. And then because your subconscious mind is always trying to prove you right, always trying to stay true to who it believes you are at an identity level, it's basically helping you stay in that shitty start-stop cycle. So I want to interrupt that today because the fact that you keep starting over does not mean you're broken in any way, shape, or form, okay? It just means that there is a pattern running. And if you do not understand the pattern, you're going to keep trying to solve it with another fresh start, which feels good for about 3 business days. And then the old wiring comes back online and takes over and you're back in the cycle again. So let's get into it. The restart loop is sneaky as fuck. It feels productive. It feels hopeful. It feels like a decision's being made. It feels like, okay, I am finally taking my life seriously. I'm starting over. And sometimes you are. Like the restart is genuine most of the time. Sometimes you really do hit a point where you're just like, no, I'm done. I cannot keep living like this. I want something different. That moment matters. So I don't want to dismiss that. There is so much power in deciding. But how it goes sideways is what most people do after that. They confuse the emotional intensity of deciding with the identity work of becoming. I'm going to say that again. They're confusing the emotional intensity of that decision that they're done. They're going to start over. They're confusing that with the identity work of becoming that actually makes it happen. They feel the high of that fresh start and think like, okay, this is it. This is the version of me that's going to stick. But they have not actually changed the pattern that made them abandon themselves last time. They've just created a new plan and got renewed energy and motivation, is back for the time being. And the plan feels really good because it gives you like a temporary relief from the discomfort of where you are. So that's why Sunday night planning can feel kind of like a drug, honestly. Like you're sitting there looking at the week ahead, and for a second, you get to feel like the woman who has it all together. Your workouts are planned, the meals are planned, the groceries are ordered, the content is planned and scheduled, the bedtime is planned, the morning routine is mapped out, the supplements are laid out on the counter, the laundry is like, you've got that planned. Like it just feels like, oh, it's just gonna be so easy. It's basically gonna fold itself. The version of you in the planner is freaking stoppable. And that feels so good, like legit a dopamine hit. Because you're not actually living the plan yet. You're imagining the relief of being the woman who follows through. And imagining her is easier than becoming her. That's the part. Imagining her gives you that dopamine hit. Becoming her requires pattern interruption. Imagining her feels clean. Becoming her gets messy. Imagining her happens when you're motivated. Becoming her happens when you're tired, overstimulated, annoyed, behind, hormonal, busy, triggered, and still being invited to choose differently. That's why this keeps happening. The restart is not where the real change happens. The plan isn't where the change happens. The real change happens at the moment where you usually revert back to your old ways, where you usually abandon yourself. And most women have never been taught how to be with that moment. They only know how to plan for the version of themselves who won't have that moment, which is not truth. It's not realistic. So they make a plan as if future them will be, regulated, rested, focused, emotionally available, fully in the mood to choose her highest self, which is like so cute, but not at all realistic. Because when, then Wednesday comes, Thursday comes, and the middle of the week is rude. The middle of the week has laundry, hormones, a kid needing something, an email you didn't want to get, a bloated stomach and low motivation, and a house that feels loud and overstimulating. The middle of the week has your actual nervous system in it. And all of a sudden, the plan that felt so clear on Sunday night feels impossible to care about. Because the plan was built around a version of you who only exists when you feel good. And if your consistency depends on feeling good, you will always be starting over, my love. Always. Because real life is not going to keep you in the perfect emotional state required to follow through. You have to become someone who can return when the emotion shifts. That's the actual work. It's not staying motivated. That's impossible. It is returning to your plan when motivation leaves. So this is where I want to talk about what starting over is really doing to your self-trust, because this is the piece that actually matters. The problem is not just that you didn't follow the routine you set, or that you missed the workout, or that you ordered takeout and stayed up way too late, or didn't post for your business on social media, or didn't do the thing, whatever. The deeper problem is that every single time you start over, you go all in, and then you hit an imperfect moment, you abandon the plan, and then you tell yourself you'll restart later. Your brain gets evidence. It is always collecting evidence to figure out who you are and keep the wiring going. Okay. And everything that you do, everything that you are comes from your subconscious wiring. So when I say your brain gets evidence, what I mean is it gets evidence every time you go through that shitty start-stop cycle. It gets evidence for the identity of, I am not the kind of person that follows through. I can't stick with things. I always fall off track. I'm not consistent. I can't trust myself. Okay, things like that. And your brain is always collecting evidence. That's just what it does. It is constantly looking for proof of who you are, not who you say you are, not who you want to be, not who you write about in your journal, who you repeatedly behave as. And this is why the restart loop, that cycle, is so expensive. It costs you your self-trust. And it's sneaky. It's costing you your self-trust very quietly, very slowly over time until one day you say, I'm going to do this. And some part of you immediately rolls her eyes. Like, sure, babe, we've heard this one before like a million times. And that hurts. That hurts because you know you meant it. But your brain has evidence, lots of evidence, that meaning it does not always lead to becoming it. So now every new commitment comes with doubt already attached. So already it's becoming even harder to actually follow through on things. You decide you're going to work out, and before you even start, you're already wondering how long it'll last. You decide you're going to wake up earlier, and part of you already knows that you're probably going to stay up too late. You decide you're going to, be more consistent with posting your content, and part of you is already bracing for the week when you disappear again. You decide you're done with the old pattern, but deep down, you don't fully believe yourself. This is not a character flaw. This is self-trust damage. Self-trust is not rebuilt by making bigger promises. It is rebuilt by keeping smaller ones. And I know that's annoying because bigger promises feel more exciting. Like, it's that dopamine hit again, right? I'm changing my whole life this week. It feels so good. It feels powerful. I'm going to do just one thing today and let it count. Feels almost offensively simple and like not enough. But if you have a pattern of abandoning yourself, simple is not beneath you. Simple is where the repair starts. The brain does not need another dramatic declaration. It needs new evidence. And new evidence usually doesn't look like a full life overhaul because you can't keep that up, right? We know that by now. It looks like doing the thing you said you would do when it would be a lot easier to just not do it. It looks like returning to the plan after a weird day. It looks like keeping the commitment small enough that your nervous system doesn't turn it into a threat. It looks like refusing to turn one imperfect moment into a full collapse on the plan. That's the shift. And I know part of you may hear this and think like, okay, but if I make it too small, then nothing will change. I get it, especially when you're like so sick of how things have been and who you've been and you want everything to change like quickly. Like if you're the kind of woman who just feels really behind, like you want the big shift, you want the dramatic transformation, you want the before and after, you want to feel like you're finally in your becoming era. You don't want a tiny little habit. You want a whole new life. And I get that. Been there, same. But the truth is, and I really need you to like absorb this and take it and run with it, because this is like everything. A whole new life is not built overnight. It is built by a woman who can stay with herself in the middle of imperfection. It is not built by a woman who only knows how to begin and doesn't know how to continue. Beginning is easy compared to continuing. Fresh starts are fun. New plans are fun. The beginning has high energy. The beginning has identity fantasy. The beginning lets you feel like you've escaped the old pattern before you've actually been tested by it. But continuing is quieter. Continuing is far less sexy, far less fun. Continuing is the day when nobody claps. Doing the thing after the novelty wears off, choosing not to abandon yourself just because the plan got interrupted and things weren't perfect. Continuing is where your identity changes on a subconscious level. And that is why so many women avoid it. They're not avoiding it consciously, but at the subconscious pattern level. Continuing forces you to meet the part of you that doesn't believe this is who you are yet. It brings up the resistance, that discomfort, those old stories, the old identity. The part of you that says, we don't do this. We start, we try, but then we get overwhelmed, we quit, and then we restart. That pattern is familiar at this point, and your brain loves familiar. Even when familiar is frustrating as hell, even when familiar is keeping you stuck, even when familiar is the exact reason you're exhausted and unhappy. Your nervous system will choose familiar disappointment over unfamiliar follow through because familiar feels safer to the brain than new. So If inconsistency is familiar, then consistency will feel weird. If chaos is familiar, peace will feel weird. If abandoning yourself is familiar, then honoring yourself and staying steady can feel weird. If starting over is familiar, staying with yourself can feel weird. So this is why you can want the new thing and still keep choosing the old pattern. The old pattern has history. It has repetition, emotional familiarity. It has a whole identity and a life lived so far attached to it. The new pattern has desire, but it just may not have enough evidence yet. It doesn't have any history with your subconscious yet, with your nervous system yet. So you have to build the evidence, not through pressure, okay? That doesn't work. Through repetition, through coming back even when it's weird and hard, through smaller commitments that actually get kept, through letting the imperfect version count. You give it evidence by stopping the all or nothing spiral before it takes over. And this is where we, of course, have to talk about perfectionism. Perfectionism is one of the biggest reasons women keep starting over. It's not because, they're actually trying to be perfect in a cute high achiever way and like for aesthetics. Like literally, perfectionism gives you a reason to abandon the process when reality gets messy. Like if the workout has to be perfect, then a 10-minute walk won't count. If the morning routine has to be perfect, then waking up late means the day's already ruined. Why bother? If the meal has to be perfect, then one takeout night means you're off track. If your content has to be perfect, then one awkward post that doesn't perform means you should probably go rethink your entire brand for the next 6 weeks. If the house has to be perfect, then doing one load of laundry feels pointless because the downstairs is a mess and there's crumbs in every corner and whatever. Perfectionism makes partial progress feel meaningless. And this is why I'm always saying perfectionism is ruining your life. When partial progress feels meaningless, you're constantly one imperfect human moment away from quitting. And that is the loop. Perfect or pointless. All in or completely off track. On track or fully derailed. And then you wonder why you keep restarting. Your brain has not learned how to stay in the middle. And the middle is where consistency lives. Consistency is not in the perfect week or in the dramatic restart. It is in the messy, boring middle. So the middle can often look like, I missed yesterday, but I'm back today. That's the middle. I only have 10 minutes and I'm using them instead of doing the full 45. That's the middle. This is not my full routine, but it's still evidence that I'm changing. That's the middle. I'm not going to make this mean that I failed, even though I, fell off track for a few days or this went really badly, whatever. That's the middle. That middle place is not going to feel as exciting as a restart, but it is where self-trust gets rebuilt. And this is what I really, really, really want you to hear. You don't need to prove you can start again. You've proven that a million times. You know how to start. You know how to get motivated. You know how to make a plan. You know how to decide that this is the moment. You know how to have that Sunday night realization. You know how to buy the things and write the list and set the alarms. That is not the missing skill. The missing skill is returning without making it dramatic to get that dopamine hit. The missing skill is staying with yourself after the first imperfect moment, not turning a missed day into a whole identity crisis. Becoming the woman who says, okay, that happened, but I'm still here. I'm coming back to the plan, even if it's a micro version of it. That is so freaking powerful. That is what changes things, literally at a subconscious identity level. Because when you become a woman who returns, the whole game changes. You stop being so scared to mess up. You stop needing the plan to be perfect. You stop putting so much pressure on Monday or day one. You stop living like one bad day has authority over who you are and the life you want to live. You stop giving your power away. You stop needing to feel motivated before you act. You stop treating consistency like this fragile little glass object that shatters the second life gets inconvenient. You become more stable, more grounded, more self-led, more honest with yourself, more able to say, I don't need to restart. I just need to return. And returning is not glamorous. It's not always a vibe. Sometimes returning is annoying, boring, and humbling. Sometimes it looks like a walk around the block when you wanted to go to the gym for 90 minutes. Sometimes it looks like drinking water at 3 p.m. instead of declaring the whole day ruined, just taking a couple breaths, drinking some water, and resetting. Sometimes it looks like sending one email instead of just disappearing because you didn't finish the whole sequence. Maybe it looks like cleaning the kitchen counter instead of shaming yourself for the entire house. Or getting in bed 15 minutes earlier instead of waiting for the perfect nighttime routine. Sometimes it looks like one really honest decision that says, I am still the woman I'm becoming, even when today didn't go how I planned. That's the line. I am still the woman I'm becoming, even when today didn't go how I planned. That is how you stop abandoning yourself, because abandonment does not always look dramatic. A lot of the time, self-abandonment looks like deciding the day is ruined just because the morning was weird, or ghosting your goals because you missed a few days, or making your humanity mean you're not capable of change and going to the next level. Okay? Sometimes it looks like refusing to count the small version of something you did because your ego wanted the impressive, perfectionistic version. Okay? And I'm saying all of this with so much love because I know how good later feels. Like saying like I'll start again later, when the truth is you could return right now in a tiny way. That feels so good. Later feels clean. It feels fresh. It feels like you won't have to deal with the mess of right now. But the problem is your life is lived right now. Your identity is being reinforced right now. Self-trust is being built or broken right now. Not in the imaginary perfect tomorrow, Monday, later, not after the house is clean or your hormones are balanced or the busy season is over after you get your shit together. Right fucking now. Right now. In this imperfect, normal, unglamorous moment. And that is actually amazing news because it means you don't have to wait for the restart. You can return today. You can create one piece of evidence for your brain today. You can stop the spiral today. You can choose one small thing today, not the whole plan, the whole new identity, one piece of evidence. That is what your brain needs, evidence. So here's what I want you to do after this episode. I don't want you to go create a whole life plan. I don't want you to open your notes app and like write a 17-part routine, okay? I want you to pick one return, literally just one. Ask yourself, where have I been waiting to restart when I could simply return to what I know to do? Maybe it's movement, your morning routine, something to do with your money, content for your business, your home, your bedtime. Maybe it's your relationship with yourself. Where have you been saying, I'll start again later, when there is actually one small thing you could do today? Make it the smallest version. And then do that. Not to fix your entire life, just to create evidence. To tell your brain, we don't abandon ourselves anymore just because it got imperfect. That is the beginning to a different identity, a different storyline. Making sense? Clocking? Okay. This is exactly why I want you to come to my class on Tuesday. It is completely free and it is like a transformative masterclass because this episode is about seeing the loop, right? You see the loop. You're having an aha moment. Okay, it's about understanding why you keep starting over even when you really mean it. And it's about recognizing the self-trust cost of that pattern. But in the class on Tuesday, we're going deeper into what actually has to change so you can stop living in the loop. Okay, the class is called Stop Starting Over, 5 Steps to Becoming the Woman Who Follows Through. It is happening live with me on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. If this episode felt like I was reading your actual brain, girl, you need to come live. Clear your schedule, move shit around, like for real, serious. Break the pattern of like, oh, I need that, but like later, I'm busy. Break it. Come live because you do not need another cute reset. You do not need another shame-fueled plan. You do not need another Monday where you try to become an entirely new person by breakfast, and you don't need to push this off till later like you do everything else that's going to change your life. You need to understand the pattern. You need to learn how to return. You need to start becoming the woman who follows through in real life with a real nervous system, real responsibilities, real interruptions, real stress, and real desires that still matter. The link is in show notes. You can go to alliecasasa.com/stop starting over, all squished together, no dashes or anything. You can also just go to my Instagram, open up the app, go to any of my posts and comment send link, and I will send it to you. Come live on Tuesday. And before you leave this episode, hear me. You are not failing because you've had to start over so many times, but you are allowed to stop making starting over your identity. You are allowed to stop treating every imperfect moment like proof that you cannot be trusted. You are allowed to become a woman who returns, a woman who keeps choosing herself, who doesn't need perfect conditions to stay in relationship with what she wants and what she knows she deserves. A woman who follows through, not because she never wobbles or falls off track, but because she no longer abandons herself when she does. That gets to be you. Come on Tuesday. I will see you there live. I love you so much. I am rooting for you always, and I will see you next time.